Hello, my dear friends. We are down to the last 3 topics, and you would think that I would remember what they are, but I actually don't. Okay. It's a very long prompt. I think what I wanted to talk about here is, kind of what it said on the paper. It doesn't have to be childhood trauma. What I mean is that, I've seen, there's a lot of focus now in the chronic illness communities and, anybody struggling with any kind of, mental health issue or anything like that. It's at least in my circles, I don't know, I never have a sense of, what has permeated to the mainstream. I know how easy it is to live in a bubble, but it seems as though this notion that your early childhood experiences can have significant and lasting effects on your long-term physical and mental health. I feel like that's pretty widely accepted now, almost to the point of probably people forgetting that there was a time pretty recently where that wasn't even really on most people's radars. So that's great. And with that comes a lot of focus on trauma and big T trauma, because there are a lot of people who have had really traumatic things happen to them. And this new way of looking at health is really interesting for me because I have a fairly serious had, serious chronic illness. I have an autoimmune disease, or several of them, maybe, we don't really know. And just various things that I've struggled with. And I'm also throughout all my struggles have basically maintained quite a high level of function. So I'm better off than a lot of people, and maybe somebody with a different personality would be a lot less attuned to, I don't know, their problems, and maybe would just live life. But anyway, a lot of fairly normal things are and have been really hard for me. Aside from the autoimmune disease stuff, which is its own thing, relationships have been a struggle for me in ways that, when I talk to my friends about it, some people can relate, others can't. And just other things involving my relationship with myself and my ability to just get to kind of a sustainable place in life that I feel good in. I don't know, this all sounds very vague and probably doesn't really matter to the conversation. The point is that I have struggles, as do everybody, whatever. But I don't have childhood trauma. I had a wonderful childhood. One could argue that once I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was 14, that subsequent to that I had some traumatic experiences, but that would have been, more long-term, more chronic. Just life was just hard for, I would say it was really hard for maybe 3 to 4 years, and then a little bit less hard after that, and then, pretty, I would say, within the realm of normal, within normal bounds for high school and college years. There's a wide variety of experiences. Some people have great lives all during that time. Other people really, really struggle, and so therefore struggling is normal. And struggling with health issues is unfortunately becoming more normal. I guess my point is that I don't have anything in my life that I would really consider to be big T trauma. And I have found that in these sort of, in this like framework of thinking about physical and mental health as being strongly influenced by your past, you often don't get very far into like advice or I don't know, just like any sort of like account or influencer or even like book or any kind of resource that is trying to help people think about things they're struggling with from this perspective of the past, or even like just from a holistic perspective. It's almost like you can't avoid people telling you that like if you are this way now, your childhood was probably X. And I've found this to especially be true with like relationship stuff. Turns out I have some attachment issues, and like you really like as soon as I find like as soon as I identify like a certain pattern that I'm experiencing and find it somewhere else like external to me, like somebody else has said like, oh yeah, this is a pattern, as soon as like that is almost always followed by this is a pattern because your early caregiver treated you XYZ way. And I'm sure that's true for a lot of people, but I have just found over and over again that like I will be experiencing a distressing or problematic pattern, and the causality that has been attributed to that pattern, seemingly by the like collective agreement of the internet, is just not true for me. Like, it's just not. And I could see that potentially being a sticking point for people. And I guess hasn't so much been a sticking point for me. It's more been just something that I'm aware of. But like, I guess I wouldn't, I don't know, it almost seems like you can have more intellectual and pragmatic freedom to sort of conceptualize and identify and like work with a struggle if you're not overly attached to a specific explanation for why it is the way it is, or like a specific cause of it. And I guess I also wouldn't want people who had like happy childhoods to rule out the possibility that some of the things they might be struggling with their physical health or in their relationships or whatever could still have like some kind of psychological component to it, some kind of like psychological relational component to it. Because I guess obviously the reason that, well, I don't know, there are a lot of ways I could talk about this. The thing that I want to say is that for me at least, I'll speak for myself, what everything seems to come down to is the present relationship between different parts of myself. And a huge way that those parts and their relationship is determined is through past relationships with caregivers or other people that you've been attached to. But it's not like, that's not deterministic. Like, humans are really complex, and there are a lot of different ways to adapt to different situations in life. And I can say that for me, like, I had a really abusive relationship with myself that absolutely was never present in external relationships with my parents or anywhere else in my life. Like, I my relationship with myself, which was harmful and abusive, was not created by like modeling an external abusive relationship. And like, I could go into my theories and hypotheses for how I did become that way. And I think they're multifactorial and not necessarily something that anybody would have like predicted based on my upbringing. It's just kind of like how it turned out. But you know, I think that I guess I just think that that's significant, that like it is possible to have a really harmful or abusive or otherwise dysfunctional relationship with yourself without having had childhood trauma, without having had abusive parents, without anything like malicious or evil in any way. And I guess that's also something that I do care about and think is important, is that a lot of really bad things can happen and can turn out really poorly without any malicious intent on anyone's part. And I know like a lot of people do recognize that, and that doesn't absolve or take away, like, you know, in really bad situations, it's human nature to want to like blame somebody or something, and in a lot of cases that's warranted. But it does continue to strike me how easily really kind of like mundane, normal incentives and influences and patterns can just kind of pile onto each other and multiply and end up causing this like really bad result. And that can be kind of a paradigm shift, because I think it's more common, or maybe just like a less mature way of understanding the world and understanding reality, to assume that a bad effect must have had like some kind of malicious or like evil cause. I don't know. And yeah, I guess I just feel like the collective understanding of both how we're influenced by our past, but also our ability to identify and work with where we are in the present without getting overly caught up in the past, would be greatly enhanced by adding to the conversation this notion that, like, if you'll excuse my bluntness, that you can be pretty messed up even without having had anything bad happen to you as a child. And, you know, that, I think that that's just kind of how it is sometimes. And I don't think I really have anything else like that valuable to say about that at this time. But if anyone else relates to that or has had any kind of similar thoughts or observations, or if you like disagree with me or think I missed something, I don't know, I'd be really interested to hear from you, because I think it's a really interesting topic and really easy to, like, I don't know, for sort of pseudoscience-y things to get mixed up in like very real things and things that are sort of like abstract maybes in the past, to replace like real concrete things that are happening in the present and whatever. So yeah, hope you're all having a good weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow.